Hi, this is Mark. Just before I go into my analysis for the week ahead, I just want to cover the subject of analysis. One of the biggest questions that come up recently, I've been working with a lot of members on a one-to-one basis, and they all ask me how I do my analysis. And many of them are surprised how long it takes me to do it. But I concentrate mainly, my main analysis is done on a weekend. So on a Sunday, I can spend 3 or 4 hours looking at charts, reading the news, looking at the calendar for the week ahead. I then go to, when I look at charts, I'll start with the monthly. So this is the British Pound USD. Now we're on the 27th of the month at the moment, and therefore this candlestick has not closed and is not valid. But at the moment, if this candlestick closes through this major area of support and resistance, then I could change my bias for the week and the month ahead. So it's an important area. I also have a look at fibs. So I place my fib on here. I have to start thinking in terms of, well, what direction am I looking at? Recently, we had a major move as a break of a trend line that went back to 2008. And many of us caught 600 or 700 pips out of potential 900 here because it was a clear break. Now when price is pulling back like this, if you want to be ultra conservative and this candlestick closes above, you start to think in terms of, well, where is price going to stop before it turns back down again? And hopefully the intersection of this 4-5 year long trend line and the 61.8 is screaming at you, as that will be the main area that traders all around the world are going to be looking at. Intraday, you then start to think in terms of, well, if this closes through, I'll then be working off a daily chart, and to get back up to here, there's 300 or 400 pips worth of movement to come. I will be looking on the short term for potential move up. So this is a very basic chart. I've simply got on here my candlesticks. I've got 255 EMA, and I've got trend lines and fibs. Next, this is a weekly chart. And on a weekly chart, I've just shown you how important the 5770 area was on the monthly. Well, 5788 spookily just happens to be 61.8 fib on a weekly. So therefore, that is further confirmation for me that that would be the area as a very conservative method, waiting for price to pull all the way back. I will be highly interested to place a forward order to short there. Equally, when I'm looking at a weekly chart, I'm looking at the candlesticks. Now this is almost an engulfing candle. We've had a 5-8 cross rolling up, stochastics rolling up. So it does look as though for the week ahead we're going to be on for a move back up. And as I said, if you're going to trade with the trend, we are in a downtrend. This goes back to pre-Christmas, and therefore you start thinking, what, 50% be interested, and 157.90 area up here, 5800 to be interested. This is the same pair on a daily chart, and I just want to show you something as well. I have all sorts of different chart setups that I look at. This is a very basic one, and I look at this one for candlesticks and also for trend lines, for zooming out and having a look at where I think price is likely to react again. And a very interesting thing on this British pound, if you look back, this is a daily chart, have a look back at the candlesticks on this pair. Now normally you can't really trade simply off candlesticks, but they have been spookily accurate for the last few months. And each time we've had a major candlestick formation at the top of a move, look how price has reacted and bounced down. Now even here this only looks small, but this was 100 pips worth of movement as well. It did it again there, it did it there, it did it there, it did it there, all the way back on this pound. So throughout the year I change my emphasis. Sometimes I pay more attention to candlesticks, sometimes I pay more attention to Bollinger Bands and EMAs, but just be paying attention, simplify things, have a look at charts with little on them and see how uncanny it can be. And again, you've got them back here as well. This is going back into 2011. Candlesticks do have a value. If you then bring into effect support and resistance, so you're looking for multiple reasons. For example, here back in August 2011 we had a pin bar reversal candle set up and we had 16600, and you can go back through this chart and start having a look, and you will notice how many times candlesticks and support and resistance on their own, giving huge clues as to a change in direction. Finally, I go down to the daily chart. I've got everything on here. I'm looking for areas of interest for trades. I put on here my notes. Last week, for example, I was looking at 153.00 for a pullback. So when price was down here, I said if price pulled up to here intraday, I would be interested to short. Then in the forum on Thursday morning, I cautioned that there was important pound news coming out, and if the news was more positive than to be expected, it could race upwards. And what did it do? The news came out better than expected. Retail sales, bang, the pound burst through this area. Now I had three major areas of interest here last week. One was a short here, longer term was up at 157.00, and the final option, I said if price breaks and closes below 152.00, I was looking for a potential breakout pullback with a view to a short. Having done my technical analysis, I then go to Forex Factory and I look at the calendar for the week ahead to see what may cause a problem for potential trades. And for example, here on Monday tomorrow, we have a bank holiday in Japan, as a result of which I will not trade the Japanese yen on Monday because Japanese traders will be out of the way, and therefore it's more likely to be less reliable than normal. So I would leave that alone. Chinese bank holiday doesn't matter. And other than that, until 3 o'clock with the US, we don't have any major red flag days. So apart from the yen, I would be looking for trades on Monday. And similarly on Tuesday, we have a Chinese bank holiday. It doesn't really affect me too much. And the rest of the news that day, CAD, I'm very wary of the CAD at the moment, apart from that pullback all the way back down towards parity. So I wouldn't take any short-term trades on the CAD around that news announcement. And then Wednesday this week, now it starts to get really messy. We have May Day, which is on May the 1st, and you have a lot of European countries have bank holidays. So once again, there's going to be a huge number of traders missing here. So that's one cautionary note before we even start for the day. Then you have ADP non-farm employment change, which is the precursor to the NFP Friday. Later in the day, we've got the FOMC statement. So really, anything dollar related from Wednesday morning onwards, I'm going to leave alone. You have seen in the past where the FOMC statement, it can rock the price of anything dollar related hundreds of pips in a heartbeat. Thursday, it's getting worse. We're building up to the dreaded NFP. We have the Euro interest rate news, followed by the press conference. And as again, if you've been with us a while, you'll know that the reaction to the press conference can often be much greater than the interest rate news. So another one, you don't trade the euro around that time. And finally, non-farm employment. I never trade NFP Fridays because it's just too silly and too illogical for me. So this week is probably the worst example of showing you how to trade around the news, but that is how I do it. Final thing I do then is have a look at the actual news. So see what comments have been made over the weekend, if there's been a G20 meeting, what they said at the end of it, and then finally I have a flick through some of the Sunday papers, and as I concentrate on the pound and the USD and the euro, then that is the press and the websites that I concentrate on looking at. And I say it can take me 4 hours or more sometimes to analyse 4, 5, 6 pairs in detail on multiple charts with the calendar, with the news, and making notes, copious notes as to what can and will affect the price of pairs I am interested to trade for the week ahead. Hope that helps. Any questions? Ask in the forum.